Hey all, this is Stephanie with Energy Aligns. Welcome to my Thursday Tarot Insight. Every Thursday, I come on to choose one tarot card to highlight and harness the energy of the collective. So as an energetic intuitive, I read the collective energy through the symbols and the content of the tarot card. And then I talk about how, as individuals, we can bring that energy into our lives or utilize that energy or ride the wave of that energy so that we can move into more ease in these times, but also so that we can cultivate an awareness of our energetic space and the energies around us. All right. So, welcome everybody. Before I get into the details of the card and the energy that came through in the card for this week, I just wanted to talk a little bit about this information, how I'm accessing this information, and how I work with it. So before I pull the card, I do drop into a meditation and I create a space for the reading of the collective consciousness each week. So information will show up in that meditation before the card is actually pulled. This is how I work with individuals doing energy readings as well. And this week, there was a lot of chaos that came through when I was looking, and I was like, oh, great, because we've been experiencing so much chaos in the world. And I was reading it and I was like, oh no, more chaos. This week was like a volcano as an image. And then I saw, some objects kind of being thrown around and especially thrown towards my space. So when I see something like that, I make sure to put up a little bit more of my protections. So it made sense after I pulled this card why I was seeing these images. So the card I pulled for this week is the Tower card, number 16 in the deck. Take a look, pause the video if you want to drop in and intuit what you get from this card. It's a great practice of developing your intuition and your awareness. So the Tower card, the number 16 in the deck. Here we have the breaking down of structures, if you look closely. And we've obviously been talking about that a lot in the past few weeks to months. And we've been absolutely seeing it play out in our 3D everyday reality, correct? So let's really get into this card because the information here is really about this coming before us, like coming ahead of us, like in the days coming. There's going to be even more breakdown. You're going to see even more destruction. You're going to see even more chaos and uncertainty and disorientation and confusion. And this is because the structures are really, really, really breaking down. The Tower card is always about what we knew in the past and what we are growing out of. And in order for us to grow out of something old and into something new, the form and the container that held it all, the old, will start to crack and break down. So on a spiritual level, on an energetic level now, let's talk about this card because we're seeing it physically with our eyes play out in our reality, right? But let's talk about the energy of us, the spiritual aspects of us as a collective here in this card. This is really what's wanting to be pushed forward from this card and talked about and come into our awareness, right? We have for too long now, and now what we are moving out of is we've stood straight and concrete in the physical three-dimensional reality. That is our lives. That is our community. That is our politics and our political structures. Our home, our life structure, our family structures, the structures that have said, like, this is what a family should look like. This is what politics should look like. This is what a government should be doing or should look like, even if it's not all true, right? That's kind of what has always been from our knowledge as far as our lifetimes and maybe generations previous, like 5 generations plus past, the same kind of structures, our ideas. Now I'm going to ramble on for a little bit because it's important to ramble on here. Why? It's important just for words to come out about what this card is really about, whether you're able to comprehend my words or understand them with your mind on a linear and mental level, it's not the point of this card. The point of this card is chaos, right? The breaking down. And any of the words that I'm kind of saying that kind of just are sometimes jumbled up when I'm trying to explain this card, I always hope for the information for these cards to come through with certainty and clarity. And that's what I intend for each of these tarot insights. I also intend that the information is for the best and highest good of all who interact with it. So if you're listening to this, that being said, in this card, the information seems like destruction. And again, I'm going to bring us back to the spirit level of this card, the spirit level, the energetic level, not the physical. Let's for 1 second here not look outside of ourselves. I'm going to say this again and again. Let's for 1 second take a pause and not look at the dismantling of the things that are happening on the physical 3D reality level. Just for 1 second, it's important that we take a break for 1 second, just for 1 second here, meaning the time that you're listening to this Tarot Insights. If you're listening to the whole thing, put aside the 3-dimensional reality that's in front of you all the time, right? Of what's breaking down, and look at this card as an energetic and spiritual dismantling. So if you look closely in this card, you really can see the zigzag here form. And this is the energy that's bursting through, that's breaking it all up. You can see how it's also connecting. It's connecting on points of the card. And you can see it as the catalyst for the breakdown, like a lightning bolt, right? Looks like a lightning bolt that has come and stricken some kind of form here and broken it all down. And on a spirit and energetic level, that's exactly what this is for us as a collective and for our evolution as a collective. And what really wants to come through in this card is that the power of our evolution is stronger than any one of us. The power of evolution is stronger than all of us as a collective. The energy and the movement that evolves consciousness, that evolves the universe, that evolves all that is stronger and more powerful than an individual, than one of our individual lives, right? It's stronger and more powerful than one lifetime. This is the evolution of all that is. So we are experiencing part of the evolutionary plan, so to say, or the expansion that's happening. And I've talked about this before in past Tarot Insights. And what's important to remember about this card, about the Tower, is as we find that our footing has been shaken, the ground literally underneath us is crumbling, to see it as an opportunity. And even as I say that, it kind of triggers something in me that makes me say, well, like, what are you talking about? How can I see this as good, right? It's so hard, so horrendous. How can I see this as beautiful or part of this process? How can we see this destruction, this conflict, etc., as anything but horrendous, right? And hard. And so I'm going to ask you again, and I'm going to ask you again to take a second to not look at the outside, but to look at this card or look within yourself, because the energy of this card is about the internal dismantling of each and every one of us so that the evolution and growth can happen for all of us. So the internal dismantling and breakdown of each and every one of us so that the external expansion can happen for all of us. Does this make sense? So when we see a card like the Tower, and mind you, this is the card that comes after the Devil card that we had 2 weeks ago. And it's like the Devil that was asking us to see the futility in things, to see the lightness in things, to laugh at the structures, right? Remember that we've built, to laugh at the constraints we've given ourselves, to laugh at the fact that we even think we are constrained or limited. And now it's moved into this Tower energy. And the energy is asking, like, what would happen if everything did break down? What would happen if I or we had limitless possibility? What would happen if I or we could create whatever I or we wanted? And that's the lesson of the Tower, is to question your reality, and this questioning, our internal reality here. So think about it as an internal restructuring so that we can create from a place of true intention, and we can create and recreate in the outside world from a place of alignment with truth, with humanity, with justice. Insert whatever word that you're using as hope for the future now. Here we are with these possibilities. And this card is really saying that as things break down, right, on the outside, we need to look within. And as things break down internally, we also need to look within. Keep looking. So let's talk about how we can use the Tower card as a touchstone in these times, in this week, and the next week, and the rest of the year, in any time when our lives become shaky or disruptive, just like this card. Anytime we dream of something bigger and then we hit up against all of those roadblocks or cracks in the pavement or crevices in the earth's crust that we have to figure out how to get over them or through them, right? And it's confusing because we want something, right? And we're desiring something. And then things get hard or difficult sometimes. In order for us to get there, right? In order for us to align. And the reason why things get difficult and hard for us to get there is because when we ask for something different and we ask for something more, the old structures, the old makings of what was have to be rearranged. They have to break down. Sometimes they are completely destroyed in order to make room for what it is you or we are turning towards, or what we're asking for, or what we're desiring, or what we're dreaming of. That's how it is individually right now. And that's how it is for the collective right now as well. And this is a big time. This is a big, big card. I will tell you this. This card was my card for the last year from 2023, 2024. So in the Tarot, we can use numerology to work out which card we're in for our growth each year that we're alive. And then we also have a card that represents our birth card for our whole entire existence, all based on numerology. And there's a lot of information in these cards every year when I use them. So I spent the last year really working with this card, the Tower, in my life. And I don't think it's quite over my work with the Tower because it's happening so much on the collective level now. So I'm still kind of touching in with it. I'm still working with it. I still pull it. I still see it. I'm still talking about it. I'm still watching it play out in my life and around me. So how I worked with this card is to acknowledge that things are breaking down. So to acknowledge that in my life, because I'm changing and growing and my awareness is deepening and expanding, and I'm connecting with what my truths are in order to move out in the world in a more honest way. And this is how, you can use it too. So one way is to look at and reflect on what in your life is disrupting, what is getting disrupted. This could be all of a sudden your cars are all breaking down, or it could be that you literally lost your job, or it could be that you just quit your job, or everything kind of was going fine in a relationship and all of a sudden things have changed, or that you just don't feel the same about insert whatever it is here. And so there's so many ways that this Tower card can show up in your life. It can show up in the biggest ways, like every area of your life is getting changed, disrupted, or disoriented for you, or more singular ways like a health problem, for instance. So after you reflected on those things or that one thing in your life that are changing and disrupting, then you look more deeply at why this thing or why these things are changing and being disrupted. And the key to this part of this exercise here and using the Tower energy individually is to look at what it is that you have been desiring. wondering about, curious about. Maybe you have a big intention you've put out there for yourself. And maybe it's just been talking to yourself quietly over the past year or 3 months, like saying to yourself, that would be really great if I had a job that was more aligned with my values. Or maybe you've been desiring just more ease in your life, and then that could be a very strong desire. And these desires could be things that you've just kind of been thinking about. They could be things that you've been intending, writing down, talking to friends, talking to family members about. I'm guessing here that a lot of us have been quietly harboring these desires. Anything you've been wanting to change, to grow into, or kind of noticing like, hey, I'm really feeling like I want more connection in my life. That's a great one. So once we identify these things, like things that we've been wanting, we focus on the things that we're wanting, and we keep some of our awareness on the things that are breaking down. Absolutely. It's hard to ignore those, and we shouldn't. But our main focus always returns to the thing that we're wanting to bring in and change in ourselves, in our lives. We just keep coming back to it, and that keeps our faith going, our trust going. We keep coming back to the feeling of these new things we're wanting. So for instance, right now, I would encourage you to close your eyes and take some deep breaths. And just breathe into the feeling of that one thing you have been desiring or wanting to bring into your life. Not to change, not to make more of or less of something, but something that you're wanting. This could be more love, more ease, more laughter, more joy, a different job, different living experience, different town, a relationship dynamic that you want to see change, that you want to bring in that's more beautiful and serving to you. Focus on that feeling of what it is that you want. So I'm asking you this now. What does it feel like? Does it feel soft? Does it feel like it flows? Does it feel like a breeze blowing through? Does it put you at ease when you think about it, when you feel into it? And when you are in your waking state, you're watching things change and shift and become uncomfortable in your day-to-day life. And as you're doing that, you return again to that feeling. You return over and over again to that feeling, even if it's just for a second throughout your day. And you say to yourself, I know that things are shifting and changing in my life because I am wanting more and different. You're taking responsibility and you're holding yourself accountable. So what this Tower card really requires and demands of each and every one of us in our individual lives and in the collective is to trust, is to surrender a little, is to drop into a literal meditative state in our waking lives. The Tower card says, I know that no matter what happens, we can figure this out as a collective, and we can trust that this is part of the cycle of creation. Now, this is not to say, and I want to say this loud and clear, this is not to say to look outside of ourselves and say, well, that's just the way it is. That's absolutely not what this card is saying. This card is saying taking responsibility and holding our awareness on all that is. This card is about the energy, the intention, and the spiritual aspect of us that is just begging and screaming and dying for us to make it a part of our lived experience. Not just something we do on a Sunday, right? Not something we just write about in our journal every so often. Not something we just go, oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll incorporate it. Maybe I'll get to it. Not something we just sit down or to chant about or meditate about for 5 minutes here or there on some days. This this is a way of life that is asking for us to start relating with it and to start expressing and experiencing it in our day-to-day lives, in every minute of our lives. This is what our spiritual experience can be. Normalized, right? Normalized for each and every one of us as a collective. This is a powerful time, we all know, and this is a powerful card, the Tower. Take one last look at it, please. I'd love to know what experiences you're having with these tarot insights, what experiences you're having with these cards, what experience you may be having if you've tried any of these exercises or contemplations that I've given in these tarot insights. I would love to hear your feedback. I'd love to have a conversation. This is how we get the energy generating and stronger and build it up and hold it for each and every one of us by talking about it, bringing it out into the open. You're not alone if you're struggling. You definitely aren't. And you're not alone if you're happy most of the time. You're not alone there either. We're all experiencing all of these things in this very challenging times. Okay, so with that, I'm wishing you so much love and deep awareness. I wanted to take a second here to ask you if you feel called to join my newsletter. I send out an energy meditation every month. So we focus on one energetic center in our bodies, and I guide you through a meditation around it. So it builds energy awareness, self-awareness, and it's just a good tool to have in your toolbox to be able to take time out to get quiet. The other thing I wanted to note is I was a guest on a podcast this week. It came out May 13th, and you can find it on all the podcast platforms. And it's with Naveem.com. And they interview me, Jean and Humphrey, interview me as the energetic intuitive that I am through my business Energy Aligns. And we talk about tarot, we talk about my story. And so it's just a fun little conversation. And you can find that also on my Instagram at Energy Aligns. I'm wishing you guys a lot of love and deep awareness, and I will see you next Thursday. Take care.